To those who have known Fred Thomason, this short presentation will come as no real surprise to you. Fred Thomason was a faithful man. He had a firm faith in God, and as a Christian, he lived his life as a faithful family man, but more importantly, as a faithful soldier of Jesus Christ. My name is Lonnie Muscle. I married Fred Thomason's daughter, Janice. I have been blessed to have been part of Fred Thomason's family for the past 34 years. Relatively few years of this man's life have I been a witness, but long enough you can be sure comes my firm confirmation that this man was faithful. His beginning was a farm boy's life. He had calloused hands and a sore back. Work behind a mule starts very early, with long, long days and blazing sun. He had the frame of a lad, but he did the hard work of a man, and he was faithful. He learned how to farm. He could make anything grow. The soil was his labor. The beast and plow were his only companions. Sweat bathed his young brow, but he was faithful. He had steel tools in his hands. He made them himself. With hot metal shaped beneath blows of his hammer, the anvil rang, and he was faithful. Work was his schoolmaster, but as a young boy, adventure was still within him. All was not toil. Ring, his dog, trotted by his side, with rifle in hand, running and free, and always he was faithful. This young man spied a young girl. His heart beat fast in his chest. Beloved was his sweetheart. He made her his bride. Promises made swiftly seldom endure, but for Fred Thomason, through long years, he was faithful. When his country called on him in World War II, Granddaddy saw much carnage and bloodshed in places like Utah Beach, St. Lo, the Battle of the Bulge, and Hertigan Forest. His young bride, Dorothy, and the little baby Richard resided alone in his heart. Fallen were many of his buddies, and he was homesick and it was bitter cold, but guess what? He was still faithful. The United States Army finished their job of defeating the Nazis when Brother Fred and his buddies finally joined up with the Russians at the Elbe River. Lean and tough were these farm boys, and you can be assured that these young boys were a terror to evil on that day. They were determined, and always Fred Thomason was faithful. Fred Thomason returned to his true love, Dorothy, and his strapping young son, Richard. To no parade did he run. For applause he did not yearn. It was enough to complete the job he was given, simply because he was faithful. Each morning he would rise with a prayer on his lips, as four young kids, Richard and Don, and then Janice, and finally Lynn, were soon to make up the full Thomason family. Granddaddy tenderly taught his kids about God and His Word because he was faithful. Granddaddy spent many long days at the shop beneath many, many cars. He had greasy hands and soiled clothes. At lunchtime, cold sandwiches were his feast. And a complainer he was not. And he was so faithful. You know, there are so many regrets for a person who is selfish when they grow old. There's so many pains and memories from a life that's just lived for themselves. But let me tell you, to Granddaddy's family, we are basking in the glory and the heritage that He's given us and the blessings that are abundant because, very simply, He was faithful with His life. There's probably never going to be a book written about Fred Thomason. Granddaddy will probably never have his name splashed across the front pages of the newspaper. He'll probably never have his name mentioned on national TV. But you know what? This servant of God could probably have nothing more fitting said about him, is that he loved his country, he loved his God, he loved his family, and that he was a faithful, faithful man. Thank you so much, Granddaddy, for having a faithful life. Thank you so much from your family.